Hi, this is Roman again. Let's continue modeling canopy. So that was the object we already made, the aluminum decking. Let's go to Plan, select this, and go to File, Libraries and Object, and open Selected Parametric Object. So now we will be modeling fascia corner support angle. And I think I did model first the left one, but it doesn't matter. But let's continue. So let's select these first and group them into one group. So let's say create new group, and maybe name it similarly, so we can distinguish. Let's just say step 1 metal deck profile. Okay, so now we know that this group corresponds to this metal decking. And for the step 2, we need again to bring a new profile. So I will take that same exact profile, extrude, put it here. Again, by default, I have this footing and concrete wall, which is not what I need. So I would double click, select the correct profile from the canopy folder. And in this case, I will do the canopy fascia. And if I would show it to you here, this is this fascia that I have modeled. So I downloaded DWG file from this website, Mapes Architectural Canopies, and I used their data to model the exact fascia. So it has a height of 8 inches, and let me just say OK, and this is that exact fascia. But again, the orientation is wrong, so we need to do the same. We need to orient it and change its size and make sure it's parametric. So again, there's not enough of just one input of transformation. We need always to use this combination. I can even just copy this, Command C, Command V, if you're using Mac computer. So here's my combination node. We'll connect it to transformation. And let me see how we can orient it. And by the way, what I found is that there is actually a difference in terms of order, what is connected first and what is connected second or third. So I don't remember exactly how that affects right now, but I just remember that it was actually important. So sometimes you need to unplug and maybe plug to another one just to see what that will change. Right, going back to the step 2, profile extrude combination, and let's first rotate it. So I will double click and type rotate. I don't need rotate shape X. I actually need a rotation X. There is a difference. So the rotation X is something you plug into the combination, and then rotate shape X, it's something that you have to actually plug in the shape into it and then plug in the angle, or change it from here, let's say 45. It will create a new geometry for you and rotate it and still keep that one. So if you want to turn this off, you have to go to this Boolean node, plug that into visible, and just set it to false, and it will just hide that for you. Or you can double click and set this to false in here, and will hide that for you wherever it's easier. But anyway, I don't want this right now, just wanted to show it to you. So let me change it back to true. And I will plug that into transformation. And I just know that I need to skip the first one because that's exactly where it matters for this particular element. So I will use a different node for the transformation one. Now, let's set the angle. And again, I could double click and set the angle here, but it's just maybe easier if you have that visible here so you understand what that is, because it won't show it to you here, unfortunately. I will plug that in, and as you can see, my fascia was just nicely rotated, so that's good. Let me also rotate it around. Let me use this rotation Z. I think I'm just following my script that I did, because otherwise we will just spend too much time trying to better understand which direction you need. It's always different because profile versus shape versus object. Later I will show you it. So you need to use different. So sometimes rotation Z works actually like rotation X. Right, so we need 90 as well, but instead of creating a new node, I can just plug this in. And as you can see, it just rotated that. Now, but I want to move this. It will be my fascia on this side actually. So I need to move it. So how do I move it? Well, again, I could create this node move, and here I have the options to offset it by X, Y, or Z coordinates, and I could just have a number and let's say plug that into X and plug that into here, and if I zoom out, you see it's actually here. So it jumped by 1 meter because that is what it is set in here. So if I would, move it back, I could see how that moves if I change this number, this value here. Now, well, because we want this to be, I could, let's say I set that in here. But so what? Because now if I change the lengths, sorry, that's the depth. If I change the lengths, that element doesn't move, right? It just stays where it is because it just reads this particular number, which is just dumb number. It's not smart number. So instead, I need to connect the overall lengths, right? And instead of this number, let me unplug that. Instead, I'll connect the canopy overall lengths to my offset X. Well, now if I zoom out, it jumped by 2 meters, which is exactly what we have here, but it jumped back into a different direction. So it doesn't really, it didn't move to where I want. And well, it is still kind of connected because if I change it, see, the distance between this X point and this fascia is exactly the same as this distance. So we need somehow to program it in the way that it will understand that it should not go into that direction. It should go to into another direction. So there is actually a great node called negative. If I scroll down this to here to math, I think it's right here. It's called negative, right? So we first need to plug this value to a negative, and then from a negative this value into offset X. And here you go. So now it actually is exactly what I need. If I would change the length, see, now our fascia is changing as well. So that is super cool. That's that. And let's see if I change but when I change the depths of the canopy, that was working with lengths, but if I change the depths, that actually doesn't work, doesn't move, doesn't stretch. So how do we stretch it? Well, guess what? We have canopy overall depth node here, right? So we just need to connect it to its height. This is profile extrude. Let me connect it directly to height and see, yes. Now, regardless how I stretch it, it will follow, this fascia will follow the geometry of this aluminum decking, which is even more cool. Okay, so let's maybe change this to something more reasonable. So maybe 1.5 by 2. All right, so we got that, and you see, as more you go, the more nodes you layer will have, and it will just be more messy. But so to kind of make it easier for you, it's always better to just group it together into separate zones. So I will say create new group, and I will just call it step 2 fascia corner support. Right, so we got that one. There's little problem here because the decking is actually flipped, like it's crossing with this fascia here. So, but it can be adjusted. We can do it a little later. All we need is just slight adjustment to that height, and it will all work fine. So let's now build, maybe switch to this step 3 and create this, again, profile extrude. I can copy it from here. It already has exactly that profile set in. And let me now create combinations. So I could potentially copy the entire group and then change parameters, but let me just do it slowly so we don't miss anything. So combination will be connected to transformation. And then now we need to start rotating it. So again, rotation X, and I need rotation Z. So this will be 2 and 3. Now so because rotation X by default set to be 0, it won't transform, it won't do anything until we actually will plug in the angle, right? So we type angle, and the default angle is 90. We will plug in that into rotation X. That's what we need. And then another angle that will be this. Okay, this is good. It's just that we need to flip it somehow, and I didn't find any node that was like kind of mirroring it, unfortunately. So what I did is that I actually moved that around by 270 here, like this, and then I need to move it somehow. So let me see here. Yeah, I think we again need to plug in the depths, right? So the depths is, remember we have the height, right? So the height is this number here, which is set to 1. So if I change it to 5, it will just modify this number. But we want to be it parametric, so we need to plug in the height. Well, if I plug in the height, again, we have similar problem. The length of this fascia is exactly the same in terms of size, that in terms of length, what the depth of this canopy is. So if I change it, you see it also changes its size. But again, we need that negative node here. So let me just type negative, and before it goes to, I need this like a middleman negative node. So I will, and by the way, if you hold command on, if you're using Mac computer, and then click on it, you can kind of unplug it and plug it to here, and then I will, so it will automatically switch back to the original what is set in here. But then when I will plug that into height, as you can see now, it's nicely it's gonna nicely work with that depth. So if I change the depth, it's gonna change the size of the fascia as well. Well, we don't need anything for the length, because we're kind of starting from this point. This is our origin, so we're not going to be moving this towards to the left. Means it will only grow that in that direction, so we don't need any extra steps for right now. So let me group that into a group step 3. I'll say fascia corner support angle left. So we got that one in place. We can make it slightly smaller if we want. And now let's go to the step number 4 and create the fascia at the front right here. So once again, I will copy this, Command C, Command V. This is the fascia, and again, I need to copy combination, connect it to transformation. This time we need a rotation. I think what I see is rotation X at my nodes here. So rotation X will go to this transformation, and the angle will be 90. And again, we have multiple nodes with the same number, 90. You see, I was able to connect this into both rotation X, rotation Z. I could just take this instead and just plug into all of these angles instead and just remove those nodes. If that is better for you, then you can do that as well. So that way you can, I will go back, you can eliminate the number of nodes maybe, but then you will have many connections, many of these cables like crossing everywhere. So for now, I'll just leave it here. Right, so I was able to rotate it, and you probably already know what to do. We need somehow explain that this front fascia needs to be exactly the same size as the size of our overall canopy, right? So, and guess where that is, right? It's right here. Overall canopy overall length right here. So we're gonna connect it to the height, and here it is. And now just test it. If I change it, it changes the size of the fascia. So this is great. Now let me connect it. Let me group it all together. It's gonna be create new group. It will be, need to rename that group. So I'll say step 4 fascia. It's gonna be, I'm sorry, so we did left. Oh, that's exactly, that will be fascia corner support angle front. Right, so that's that. This is good. Well, now we see that this so after we built all the fascias, that this decking is actually, it needs to be moved up a little bit, right? So let's maybe move it up. If we look at this metal deck profile group, let's see. So we did use combination, and we have scale. That's one plugin, transformation one. Then we rotated it, but now we just need to move it up a little bit. So to move that, we just need to double click and just type move. So we have multiple nodes for moving objects, but I think this one is the one that we need. Actually, well, let me see, because I see on my notes that I was using a different move, but we probably could use this one as well. So if we plug that into, let's maybe just use not skip the transformation input. So I'll use the scale for the first, and then I'll use the rotation. Let me just drag them a little bit so I have it exactly as in my notes. Let's replug it to the transformation 2, and now move this, plug this move node into transformation 3, and as you can see, we have offset X, Y, and Z. So if I double click and type number, well, 1 meter is too much. We don't want to move it by 1 meter. We want to move it by a smaller number, and we're gonna say the value to be, let's say, 0.2, and the step I'll change it to 0.01, and I'll plug that into offset Z, and now you see that I was able to just move it quickly, but it's too much, so I can just move it down a little bit, 0.07. That looks about right. That looks about right. So we're just gonna, now we need to add this node, both of them. I'll select them with command key and add to this group, step 1. So they are now members of that group. So this looks better. So we got our decking and 3 fascia elements. The step 5 was the section support angle, and let's go down here, and again I'll create a profile extrude, but before that let's just say okay, save these settings, and you will see that our element is starting, is getting better now, because it has now fascias around them. So, and we can also adjust the lengths, right? So it's going to be all parametric. But just wanted to go to this complex profile and just show you where exactly I have that. For some reason, yeah, it's right here. So here in this canopy, this is that profile that I'm gonna use now, and just to show it to you on the shop drawings, yeah, it's right here. It's this exterior aluminum section support angle. It's this object here. It's like a T shape or double L shape element. If I click edit, you will see it right here. So that's that profile I made in the profile manager, using a complex profile tool. So this one, and as well as some other here, the fascia, the clip angle, and others. Because some objects are just more complex, and for some of them I was actually even using the actual object. So I've modeled, for instance, this clip angle with all the bolts and everything, and saved that as an object, and then used that entire object as my entity inside the Parametric. So let's just select this once again, go to open selected Parametric object. All right, step 4, let's do step 5. We will begin with the same profile extrude. So here it is. Double click, select a different profile, which is this section support angle. I'll say OK. Now that's that profile. So again, we just need to rotate it and locate it accordingly. Well, in this case, it's going to be a little bit more complicated because we not just need one element, but we need multiple elements, right, along the canopy. So we need to use this node, which is called line points, which is right here. And it's kind of similar to grid points. Instead, it just gives us the option to locate multiple elements, in this case, this particular angle support along the line. So our line needs to be like this line right here, and then we need to connect this line points to a move node, and this time we will use not move but move by vector node. This node works with line points, so we're gonna connect it, and then this move will be connected to the transformation of the profile. And as you can see, as soon as I did that, it actually started to generate like numerous, I think there are 10 of them. If I double click, actually not here, but on the line points, yeah, there's this count. It says 10, and I can change it to 5, for instance, but it generates them in this direction, which is not what we actually need. So we need to make sure that we can set up the correct direction for the spreading these elements. So how do we do that? Well, we have to create a point, and we have to specify that point as the end point. So now it's just, there's just one element because the settings are 0 by default. But we need to add the canopy overall length to that point, I think as X. Let me see now. So the canopy overall depth, this is canopy overall length. So if I connect it to X, all right, almost there, but not that exact same orientation. I think now we need not only use one transformation, but we need combination. So this type of combination, and so that will be like kind of the first the first rule, spreading them like this, because that's what I'm seeing. Actually, there's also a Y point here. I'm sure that you can probably do it in both ways, but how I did it was that I rotated it. So let's just use rotation rotation X, and we need angle. That is set to be 90. Yeah, I think if I would plug that in, nothing did happen. Let me see. That's because that's what I am checking on my notes. Because, okay, so we also need the to set the number of them. So the number you can set by adding that node number, and then, well, I can change this step to 1, and we just, let's say, need only 3. So you have the option to connect it to here, and then you will have the number of them. But again, we need to rotate this by 90 degrees. Let me pause the video and find out. That is, oh, I just realized that I didn't plug that in. So we need to connect the variables to transform, of course. Yeah, so sometimes you're looking at these nodes and just forget that you didn't connect it into transformation, into the main one. All right, so that's that. But now we also need to move it a little bit. All right, so we actually need to plug it. We need to change the height of the profile, right? So if I double click on it, there's just this one number, and I could just type number and plug it to height and change it. But instead, what I want is I want to connect this height in a similar way like we did the previous one, but this time not with the overall length, but with the overall depth. So I will connect that to depth. All right, so that actually works. In terms of the depth is set to be 1, and that's why we didn't see any difference. But as soon as I start changing it, you see it changes the depth of the canopy, and it keeps the exact same length. I mean, it's exact same distance for the length of this support. So we just want to make sure that we use negative as well again. So double click negative. I will unplug it with command and plug it back to here. So this negative will now say, okay, we want them to run in the correct direction. Well, this is, it looks good. It looks much better. So we have multiple numbers, and let me just change these parameters to more reasonable size. But we have 4 of them, and we can now, remember this was the number that we were able to set up how many of them we want. Let's just double click on it and just say number of supports. We'll also copy this and paste it to here. So this is how your parameter name will be shown inside ArchiCAD later. So instead of that default name, we're just going to say number of supports, and make sure you switch that to true. In other case, this parameter will not show up. So this needs to be set to true. I will put this on the side as one of the main parameters, because it will then later not only affect the number of supports, but also the number of rods and hangers and plates and everything like that. So now let's see if we have it right in terms of height. So I will open this section, so we can see that support easier to see in here on this drawing. Yeah, so this support actually sits higher than the decking, right? So it needs to be above it. So we need to move it up somehow. So again, we have another input here for our transformation, so we can just move it slightly. We'll add another move node, and we're gonna move it by Z axis, and I will just type number. 1 is too much, so I will change the step to 1.1, 0.01, and then maybe this set to 0.2 for now. Plug that into Z, and finally plug that into the last input, and now we can see that our supports just got raised up. So I will obviously change it a little bit. All right, so that looks about right. It may be slightly off. Okay, that looks about right. And by the way, right now, this geometry, this angle is not really cutting through the actual decking. So to do that, what we can do, we can use what's called a difference. So there is this difference. It's solid operations in ArchiCAD, if you're familiar with that, so you should know what that is. I will just put this difference node here, and and by the way, it's better to rename this. I will rename this to section support angle, so I know what that is, and as well as the other one, this one here, which was what? That's okay, that's fascia. I need this one here, the first one, the metal deck profile. So I will double click here. Let's say metal deck profile. What I'll do is, you see I have shape 1 and shape 2, so I will select this shape and plug it into, let's see, shape 1, and then the other one, the other shape, which is the metal deck, I will plug that into shape 2. And as soon as I do that, you see now we start to see all of the intersections nicely. This looks much better. But the thing is, we actually now still have this metal deck, I think 2 times. Let me just click on Boolean, just test something quickly. So if we connect this Boolean into visible, and we can turn it off and on. So now, okay, so this is that one. This is this one, and then it's probably this one that got duplicated. Let's see, false. Now for some reason, yes. So as you can see, I can turn this off and on, but at the same time I can also turn this off and on. So we don't actually need both of them. So I would keep this one as false and this one as true, so we don't duplicate this geometry. And I will eliminate this, so we'll go back to that original shape. So now we just made 4 of these supports, but the problem is that this last support is a little bit off, so we somehow need to push it back a little bit, to offset it back a little bit. And I think what we need to do here is to use a subtraction node, if I'm correct. Let me see. Let's go back to this. Step 5. So we already used all of these, right? But the height is set to be negative. That's okay. So that's not that what I need. That's the height of that's the depth of the canopy, right? So it's all good. But where it says, okay, we have this line points here. All right. So what I'm seeing on my notes, so where we have line points, I mean, we set up the end point, which is X, which is the canopy overall length, but we need to subtract from it a little bit, right? From that length. So as easy as that, just double click and type subtraction. So we need to subtract from, and I can connect it here. So we need to subtract from the overall length some number, and this number is going to be 0.2 approximately. I will change this to 0.2. This step can be also changed just to show you. So what this node does is just takes the lengths, and then so it subtracts from A, subtracts that value in B, which is 0.2, and then we're gonna connect it to that, I think to that point X. Let me try. And here it is, exactly. So as you can see, now if I want, I can change it a little bit and here and there, and it will move from that end. I know that this has to be 0.2 because I actually also changed the offset of this one. We can do it a little later. I think I will look at my notes, but let's just for now let's just group all of these nodes into one group and call it. Maybe include this as well, and maybe even that as well. So this node, this group is a little bit more complex. It has more information, so the group can be slightly wider. Let's go create group and just change it to step 5, section support angle. All right, so that was step 5. Let's do a little break and continue in the next video. Thank you.